And as David said, she's a quick study, and we didn't have to say anything to her. She was looking around, not saying this is horrible, but you could tell she was thinking they need help here.
Well, we should strike with the iron's hot. Whatever we need to do to initiate them telling us what type of a plan we should be coming forth with, we should be doing it. Because she's not going to be there forever either, and it seems like we've established some type of a connection there with Brad Jones.
I don't think we should wait any longer than we have to, because while it's fresh in her mind, we want to keep it moving.
God, can we start construction by July 4th? They're generally pretty good at getting these things going.
Well, I thank you for your compliment, but I have to say, Dr. Troughton carried the day on this project.
Do we want to move to rejuvenate the building committee now? Dr. Troughton, do you want to give it some thought in terms of, now that we have new regulations from the MSBA, we have to have certain types of people on the committee from the community. So do you want to look at that and come back next meeting, and we can then?
That would be my recommendation. I'd like to sit down with Chuck Carucci, Ms. Carucci, and Nicole, and maybe step back, map out a plan, and then come back.
Look at the charge as
Right.
well.
Right, we have to change charge too.
Right.
Get very specific.
Yeah. But as I say, it was gratifying that she asked to look at our high school. And I know, as we were walking back to our cars, Mr. Bowers mentioned it also would be gratifying if we could get the middle school looked at. And I know we can't get everything done at once, but it would be great to extend an invitation to her to say, come on back out and take a look at our middle school. I think
really horrified.
Yeah, I think we really ought to do that.
Yeah, form two groups.
I get a lot of cold water thrown on me with a statement, but it seemed, and I'm not exactly sure what our program would be under her view of, improving the existing buildings. But my recollection is, from the little bits and pieces I get as an individual citizen out there on the school committee, that it was to connect the facilities and build common facilities between the two. And when the committee was going through the process, it seemed to me that they were talking about, well, we ought to do this part of it and then maybe hold off and do that part of it. My experience from doing projects my entire career was that the best way to get the lowest cost is to do it all in one piece with one contract. And that way you optimize your position.
I think one of the issues we have, Cliff, and Jerry can speak more to this, when we were developing that plan, that was really pre the new MSBA guidelines, and the rules have basically, isn't that the case, Jerry?
Yeah, no, it was pre. We were more or less initiating it and going to them and saying, this is our plan. And I think those days, as Dr. Troughton said, are gone. And again, even back then, I mean, the more we looked at the combined secondary project, the cost was just, it was going out of sight. I mean, and quite frankly, it's not going to be going down. I just think we're going to have to scale down what we wanted to do. Although I still believe that, the high school doesn't lend itself real well to the type of project that we would like to accomplish. But after having worked on the bachelor and having worked on the hood, you are amazed at the things you can do. I mean,
You direct an architect.
You get an architect and you put some heads together, and it is amazing what you can accomplish with an older building or with a renovation. So, I guess we'll have to, when we get to that point, see what the cost is for the type of renovation that we need for the high school, and see if it starts to approach the cost of new construction, because there is a lot that needs to be done there.
But I think Cliff's point is well taken in that, while the high school needs work, we have done some work there. Granted, it was some 20 years ago. We've basically done nothing at this building from day one. A roof and a new gym floor.
Well, don't forget, a lot of it at the high school. How many modular classrooms do we have there now?
We have 6 modular classrooms at the high school and a modular cafeteria.
So all of those are.
And we have 10 modular classrooms here.
So I mean, it's just a really overwhelming type of project that we're looking at for the secondary schools. I mean, the modulars aren't what they used to be, and there's a lot more permanency to them, but they're not going to last forever. That's for sure.
No, and they're not a long-term. No. They're not a long-term solution. You just keep adding modulars on the end of the building and keep creeping out.
So that will be connected.
Right, exactly.
We get so appreciative that we were able to sand and redo the gym floor last year.
Right.
And it was like, I mean, we were very happy that we were able to accomplish that. You know, and you go into, as Mel knows better than I do, you go to some of the other high schools in the KBN League and the surrounding area communities, and the athletic facilities are just mind-boggling. And for us to get that floor done was,
Right.
we really felt good
Big
about
day,
that.
yeah. I can almost see that, I need to split the committee then. If we do go down the road
That's right,
of
we might have
a high school renovation and addition project, we still need to keep the middle school, at least an improvement plan for the buildings and grounds active, because aren't you allowed to submit capital projects
Yes, you
to
are.
that
Yes, we are,
pipeline?
right.
So, and not to mention that if they identify capital projects here, we could put them on the town's capital project list. And it just will keep both issues alive, so that some of us don't feel the middle school's gonna go away, because taxpayers will fund the high school renovation and think that all the problems
We're
are
done,
solved.
right.
So maybe we look at the makeup of the members and we ask them to take one role or the other. One of them would be on the fast track if we're looking at submission next year.
Perhaps the Catherine Craven's group would look at both with the idea of either having 2 projects or 1 project. And that way it would be a kind of a coordinated effort.
I think the indication is that if we downsize our wish list
Right.
and look at a single project renovation addition, that it would stand a better chance
Right.
of getting done sooner.
Yep.
I think that's sort of being gleaned out of her walkthrough.
I do think that possibly splitting the committee up or having 2 committees is something, Dr. Troten, if you could think about. And I do, you know, as Jerry and others said, strike while the iron's hot. Maybe she won't come out, but, you know, we enjoyed your visit so much to the high school. If you get a chance, come out and tour our middle school. And I just think that opportunity, while she's
And bring another check with you.
Bring another check, right? So, if that's something possibly to consider moving forward.
I should have had refreshments for her or something.
I know.
Did we give her any?
Should have gone to Ryers and picked up a soda for her or something.
I think it's, somebody has said, people come and go,
Right,
and it would be useful to keep talking with her.
Right, while she's here.
While she's there.
exactly. Good
Yes.
point, Cliff.
Because if somebody else comes into that position, is gonna have to
Right.
educate themselves on everything that's going on.
Exactly right.
That's not something you're gonna get up and running on right away.
Exactly. Any other questions and comments on school building?
Oh, job well done, guys.
Yes, very good.
One down.
And I echo what they said too about Wayne and his staff.
Yes, the buildings are amazing for their age.
They really are.
I mean, you walk through this, I mean, I've been to like Billerica High School, which is, it's an okay school. It's probably about the same age as ours. But, they have issues with the ceiling tiles. We seem to, when we have something like that, Wayne and his crew seem to be on it 5 minutes after it happens.
And plus, it's always shining when you go in there too.
Exactly.
This building too, for that matter.
Right. Okay, next we have the long-awaited official version of the FY09 budget with photography this year.
Oh, it's a splendid
It's
job.
stunning,
It really
stunning.
is.
At no extra charge.
And no-
Right. Well, I think it's important to point out that on the cover are 2 female students in a science lab. And I think we're comfortable, we like that image. It happened not to be North Reading students.
It's not a science lab.
No, you didn't have to tell us that.
We don't have science labs at that age in our schools.
But I'll just say a couple words about this. We've spent so much time talking about the FY09 budget, we probably don't need to revisit a lot of it. But there's a couple themes that are worthy of note here. And we've spent the bulk of our time talking about how we can improve classroom resources. How can we improve our teaching staff? How can we add to our teaching staff? How can we reduce class size? In order to do that, our whole philosophy here is to keep the expense side of the ledger down. If 80-odd% of our budget is for personnel, 20%. If we can keep that as low as possible, it allows us to prioritize and put our energy into increasing our personnel complement. And that, I think, is worthy of mention, because as you go through this booklet, you'll notice that we've once again kept the budgets for the schools at 2% collectively. There are some schools a little below 2, a little above 2, but that's based on enrollment shifts. The expense budget for the 5 schools in aggregate is only 2%. And that's done at some cost. The principals are begrudging in their acceptance of that concept, but they do so because they want to take the extra dollars and add them to personnel.
Carl, I agree with that, and I think that's what we need to do, but I was wondering if it comes at a cost to parents at those schools. And I ask because when inflation is running at the rate that it's running, fuel costs, I don't understand how we can only be increasing expenses by 2% at a school. And I wonder, does that mean if more notices come home, we could use donations of X and Y? And so I think that's what we need to do, again, and this is an unofficial fee, but again, we're getting more of that semi or quasi-public education where we keep asking the parents of school kids to pay more.
True.
Through various methods. And I know you're not trying to do that, but I wonder if that's what the result of this is.
Well, that's one of the impacts, one of the many impacts. The other impact, of course, is fees. We've been increasing fees for many years, too, and that has a way of keeping that expense side down at 2%, too.
Right.
With energy moving up as it is, and the associated costs of energy, which is, you should see the surcharges we get on our food deliveries. There are surcharges built into deliveries now.
Yep.
There's impact in the food that we buy for the cafeteria. There's a lot of ancillary impact.
Food prices
Yes.
are going way up.
What's the bus company doing? Is there a built-in, is there an escalator bus?
There is a fuel escalation charge that is built into our contract with them, but it's not prohibitive on our part. It's written in a very district-friendly way.
So they could be taking a beating.
Oh, they are.
Yes.
They're having a difficult time.
Yeah.
Remember, they're the low bid to begin with.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole low, and this is a pretty sizable contract over 3 years, you know, close to $1 million for them. And they're a mom and pop outfit. And they have won the bid 3 successive periods, and it's just a $1 bid. And they have been, I wouldn't say substantially, but significantly lower than number 2, 3, and 4, because they've wanted the bid. And I almost, on one hand, I almost feel bad for them, to be honest with you. Yet that is our savings,
Yeah.
of course, but they're having some difficulty. We're in year 1 of the 3 here too. But so as we won't approach FY10 at this point, but as we
No, we
start
don't.
talking about that in the fall, the school committee may want to make some comments about that issue. You know, maybe we have reached a point where we cannot continue successive 2% increases for our entire range of expenses. And that's not just the school budgets, that's the technology budget, that's professional development, that's custodial, that's grounds.
What kind of impact is that having on furniture? I mean, Dr. Troutman and I commented earlier about the furniture at the high school. If we have, I mean, are we not buying, because furniture wears out, and it's...
There's a clear impact, because we can't afford that out of the school budget. We used to spend, there are 2 other sources of money for furniture. We used to have a warrant for furniture
Oh, that's
for
right.
many years. That no longer is up there. We also sometimes use small cap money for furniture, because you can't squeeze it out of a 2% increased budget for the school. So there are, those are, but some of the examples of issues we're dealing with because of this philosophy that we've all bought into. I think it shows in several areas, whether it be grounds possibly it shows, whether it's in some building areas. But I'm not here to make that plea. But I wanted to just more point out what our philosophy has been.
Right.
And how we may need to revisit that a little bit in the future. It's not substantial.
No.
But that, I think public, it might be interesting for them to know that. That has really been the underlying underpinning of our school budget these last several years. The only other thing I'd mention, of course, here is, you know, there is some uncertainties in this budget, as always. So they're a little bit